What if I told you that just 20,000 years ago, the Earth you know looked completely alien? Not some distant planet, our own world. Massive ice sheets taller than skyscrapers, endless frozen grasslands where giant animals the size of buses roamed. Early humans fighting to survive in a world of constant cold and danger. Today, we are not traveling billions of kilometers into deep space. We are traveling through time. We are winding the clock back 20,000 years to a period known as the last glacial maximum, the absolute coldest, harshest chapter of the Pleistocene epoch, the peak of the Ice Age. You are an indestructible observer. You are a ghost stepping into a forgotten world, here to witness the Earth when it was locked in a deep planetary freeze. As we descend from orbit, the blue marble you know is gone. From space, the Earth looks blindingly white. Massive, sprawling sheets of ice cover the northern hemisphere. They swallow entirely what will one day be Canada, Scandinavia, and massive parts of Russia. But look at the oceans. They look wrong. Because millions of cubic miles of water are locked up in these massive glaciers, the global sea level has plummeted. The oceans are nearly 400 feet lower than they are today. Continents that are usually separated by vast seas are now connected by massive bridges of dry land. We touch down. You are standing where the city of New York will eventually be built. But there are no skyscrapers here. There is no land at all. You are standing on top of the Laurentide ice sheet. Look down at your boots. Beneath you is a solid wall of ice, 2 miles thick. It is a staggering amount of frozen water, a glacier so massive that its weight is physically pushing the Earth's crust down into the mantle. The wind hits you instantly. It is a relentless, howling gale. Because the ice sheet is a massive high-altitude dome of freezing air, gravity pulls that heavy air down toward the edges, creating ferocious winds that never stop. The temperature is 50 degrees below zero. If you weren't indestructible, the moisture in your eyes would freeze in seconds. But you just stand there, feeling the terrifying force of the cold, completely safe. The ice here is not like the snow in a backyard. It is ancient, compressed and tinted a deep glowing blue. Let's go deeper. You find a massive fissure in the ice, a deep, jagged canyon carved by ancient meltwater, and you step inside. Descending into the glacier is like walking into a cathedral made of sapphire. The sunlight filters down through hundreds of feet of compressed ice, bathing you in a strange, aquatic blue glow. If you press your bare hand against the wall, you can feel the vibration of the continent shifting. The ice groans. It lets out deep, thunderous cracks that echo for miles. The sound of millions of tons of frozen water creeping slowly, violently across the landscape, grinding entire mountains into dust beneath it. Look closely at the ice walls. You can see tiny bubbles trapped inside. That is the air of the ancient Earth, locked away for tens of thousands of years. We phase back to the surface and drift west, leaving the towering ice behind. We are dropping down onto a new land that, in the modern world, sits at the bottom of the ocean. Welcome to Beringia, the Bering Land Bridge. Today, a vast ocean separates Russia and Alaska, but right now, it is a sprawling, flat plain roughly 1,000 miles wide. You are walking on the ocean floor, but there is no water here. The ground is frozen solid. This land bridge connects the continents, acting as a massive highway for the giants of the Ice Age. We glide further south, into the heart of the most extensive ecosystem on the planet, the Mammoth Steppe. This is a biome that does not exist in our modern world. It stretches all the way from Spain, across Eurasia, over Beringia, and deep into North America. It is an endless, freezing grassland. There are very few trees. The air is simply too dry, and the climate is too harsh for forests to take root. Instead, the ground is covered in dense, tough grasses, mosses, and low shrubs. The sky above is not a clear, pristine blue. It is hazy, choked with fine, powdery dust called loose, whipped up by the constant glacial winds, and then, through the dust, you see them, the rulers of the Pleistocene. A herd of woolly mammoths moves slowly across the plain. They are not monsters. They are just majestic, highly adapted animals trying to survive. They are the size of modern African elephants, but they look entirely different. They're covered in thick, shaggy coats of dark hair, with a dense undercoat of wool that traps their body heat. Walk right up to them. They cannot see you or hear you. Stand beside the matriarch of the herd. You can feel the heat radiating off her massive body in the freezing air. She swings her enormous spiral tusks back and forth like snowplows, scraping away the top layer of hard frost to reach the dry grasses underneath. When she takes a step, the ground trembles. The deep, low-frequency rumbles the herd uses to communicate vibrate right through your chest. This world is teeming with giants. The cold has forced animals to evolve into massive versions of themselves, a biological rule where a larger body loses less heat. Suddenly, the mammoth herd stops grazing. Their trunks lift, testing the air. A shadow moves through the tall grass. It is a Smilodon, the saber-toothed cat. It has a build more like a bear than a modern lion, with immense front shoulders designed to wrestle massive prey to the ground. Its iconic teeth, a foot-long gleam in the pale sunlight. It walks with a quiet, confident grace, ignoring the freezing wind. But even the Smilodon keeps its distance from the true terror of the steppe. Standing a few hundred yards away, sniffing the air, is the giant short-faced bear. When it drops to all fours, it is as tall as a man. When it stands on its hind legs, it towers over 11 feet high. It is incredibly lean, built for running down prey across the open plains. In this brutal world, it is the undisputed apex predator. The sky begins to darken, but it isn't nightfall. The wind shifts. The temperature drops so fast you can feel the air crystallizing. An ice age blizzard is rolling in. Because you are immune to the elements, you can just stand there and watch the chaos unfold. The sky turns a blinding, featureless white. The wind screams, whipping fine, razor-sharp snow across the plains at hurricane speeds. It is a complete whiteout. You cannot see your own hand in front of your face. For the animals out here, this storm means a desperate battle to keep moving and stay warm. For anything caught unprepared, it means the end. The storm rages for hours, a violent reminder of how hostile this planet can be. And then, as quickly as it started, the wind dies down. The snow settles. Through the clearing haze, you spot a flicker of orange light in the distance. You glide across the freshly dusted steppe, drawn to the glow. Nestled in a shallow ravine, sheltered by a natural rock overhang, is a small camp. Humans. These are early Homo sapiens, exactly like us anatomically, living in the most unforgiving conditions imaginable. They are dressed in thick layers of animal hides, masterfully stitched together with bone needles. Stand near their fire. You watch as they sit together. One is carefully knapping a piece of flint, striking it to create a razor-sharp spear point. Another is using a piece of charcoal to draw the shape of a stag on a smooth river stone. It is a humbling sight. They feel every bite of the wind. They feel the hunger, the danger of the cave lions, and the encroaching dark. Yet, they survive. They adapt. They use fire, tool-making, and community to push back the ice. Looking at them, you realize that the human superpower has never been sharp teeth or thick fur. It has always been our minds, and each other. The sun finally sets. A night on the Ice Age Earth is spectacular. Because the atmosphere holds so little moisture, there is no haze left after the storm. The sky is incredibly clear. The stars burn with a fierce, brilliant intensity. The constellations look mostly familiar, though slightly shifted, a reminder that the stars too are drifting through space. But the real show is to the north. Because the magnetic field was fluctuating during this era, the auroras, the northern lights, are massive. Ribbons of neon green, purple, and crimson sweep across the entire sky, painting the massive ice sheet in shifting, ghostly colors. The snow glows under the starlight. The silence of the steppe is broken only by the distant howl of a dire wolf pack and the crackling of the human fire. The temperature plummets. It is a cold so profound that trees would shatter if there were any around. But the world sleeps, locked in its frozen rhythm. It is hard to imagine that this ice will eventually melt. It is hard to imagine that 20,000 years from now, the colossal glacier you stood on will retreat, carving out the Great Lakes, scraping the topsoil off continents, and filling the oceans until they swallow the land bridges whole. The mammoths will fade away. The mammoth steppe will turn into the forests and fields we know today, but the scars of the ice will remain. The valleys it carved, the rivers it redirected, and the resilience it forced into our ancestors are the foundations of the modern world. To experience the Earth at its coldest is to understand its raw power. It is a planet that breathes in slow, massive cycles of fire and ice, indifferent to whoever or whatever lives on its surface. It is a beautiful, shifting masterpiece. If you enjoyed this journey back through time and into the deep freeze, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. We've got a whole universe of space and time left to explore, and I'd love for you to join me on the next adventure. Thank you so much for watching.